They forgot my birthday for the 5th year in a row while planning my sister's extravagant promotion party. So I took the $48,000 I'd been hiding and bought myself a beach house. When they saw my social media post that said family not invited, they lost their minds. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please hit that subscribe button. This story is about boundaries, revenge, and finding yourself when your family treats you like you're invisible. Trust me, you need to hear every single word. My name is Madison, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a medical billing specialist at a large healthcare network, and I've been living alone in a modest apartment for the past 6 years. My sister Stella is 26, works in marketing at a tech startup, and has always been the golden child. Everything she does deserves celebration. Everything I do barely registers as existing. I stood in my parents' living room in Spokane, Washington, holding a box of leftover cake from the small celebration I'd had with 2 coworkers. Stella sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, not even bothering to look up. "Why didn't you tell us you were having a birthday dinner?" my mother asked, her voice dripping with false concern. "I did tell you," I said, keeping my voice steady. "3 weeks ago and again last week. I texted you the day before." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, honey, you know how busy we've been with Stella's promotion party planning. Speaking of which, we need to finalize the catering menu. Stella, did you decide on the shrimp appetizers or the crab cakes?" That was it. That was the entire acknowledgement of my 29th birthday. 5 years in a row now they'd forgotten. Not forgotten, actually. That would have been easier to swallow. They just didn't care enough to remember. I placed the cake box on the kitchen counter. Inside was a small chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Madison" written in purple icing. I'd bought it myself from the grocery store bakery because no one else was going to. "Actually, I can't stay," I said. "I just wanted to drop this off since I couldn't finish it." "That's sweet, dear," my mother said, already turning back to Stella. "Now, about the guest list for your party. Should we invite the Hendersons? They have that lovely son who just moved back from Seattle." I left without another word. Nobody noticed. The drive back to my apartment took 20 minutes, and I spent every second of it replaying the interaction. 5 years. 5 consecutive years of having my birthday treated like an inconvenient footnote, while Stella got elaborate parties for every minor achievement. When she got her driver's license at 16, they threw a party. When she graduated college, they rented out a restaurant. When she got her first apartment, they bought her all new furniture and threw a housewarming party that I helped set up. When I graduated college, they took me to dinner at a chain restaurant. When I got my first apartment, they asked if I needed help moving but canceled at the last minute because Stella had a date she needed advice for. When I got promoted to a senior billing specialist position 2 years ago, they said congratulations over text, and then asked if I could help pay for Stella's new car. I did help pay for that car, like an idiot. I sent them $2,000 because family is supposed to help family. Stella never thanked me. She probably didn't even know I contributed. My apartment was dark when I got home. I flipped on the lights and looked around at the space I'd made mine. It wasn't much, but it was clean and organized. I had a decent couch I'd bought secondhand, a coffee table I'd refinished myself, and walls decorated with prints I'd collected over the years. Everything here I'd earned and bought with my own money. I sat down at my small kitchen table and opened my laptop. My bank account stared back at me from the screen, showing a balance that had grown steadily over the past 5 years. $48,000 in savings. I'd been putting away money religiously, living below my means, skipping vacations and new clothes and fancy dinners. I'd been saving for a house down payment, waiting for the right time, the right place. But why was I waiting? For what? For my family to finally notice me? For them to acknowledge that I existed as more than just Stella's older, less interesting sister? My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Can you pick up the deposit check for Stella's party venue tomorrow? We're swamped." I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I opened a real estate website and started searching for properties in coastal Washington. Places far away from Spokane. Places where my family couldn't just drop by unannounced and make me feel small. I spent the next 3 hours looking at listings. Small cottages near the ocean. Beach houses with weathered siding and front porches. Properties that were affordable because they needed work, but had character and peace and distance. By midnight, I'd saved 10 listings and scheduled viewings for the following weekend. I texted my mother back. "No, I can't pick up your check. I'm busy." Her response came immediately. "Busy with what?" I didn't reply. The next morning, I called in a personal day at work. I drove 3 hours to Westport, a small beach town on the Washington coast, and met with a real estate agent named Carol. She was in her 60s with kind eyes and didn't ask why I wanted to look at properties so far from where I currently lived. We looked at 6 houses that day. 5 of them were fine but forgettable. The sixth one made me stop breathing for a moment when we pulled up. It was a small, cottage-style house painted pale gray with white trim. The front porch wrapped around one side, and through the windows, I could see hardwood floors that needed refinishing and walls that needed painting. The backyard led directly to the beach, just a short path through tall grass and sand dunes. It needed work. The roof had some damaged shingles. The kitchen was outdated. The bathroom fixtures were ancient, but it was mine. I knew it the moment I walked through the door. "How much?" I asked Carol. She named a price that was exactly $45,000. My entire savings with $3,000 left over. "I'll take it." Carol blinked. "Don't you want to have it inspected first? Think about it for a few days?" "I've been thinking about it for 5 years. I want it." We spent the next 2 hours in her office filling out paperwork. I put down earnest money and signed a purchase agreement. The closing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, right after Stella's promotion party that I had no intention of attending. I drove back to Spokane in a daze. I had just committed to buying a house by the ocean, a house that would be entirely mine, with no family strings attached, no expectations, no comparisons to Stella's accomplishments. When I got home, there were 7 missed calls from my mother and a series of increasingly frantic texts about the party venue deposit. I ignored all of them and went to bed with a smile on my face for the first time in months. The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparation. I took out a small loan to cover the minor repairs the house needed to pass inspection. I started packing my apartment, sorting through belongings and deciding what to keep and what to donate. My parents called multiple times about Stella's party. Could I help with decorations? Could I arrive early to set up? Could I contribute another $500 because they'd gone over budget? I said no to everything. They acted like I was being difficult. Meanwhile, Stella's party approached like a storm I had no interest in weathering. The night before the event, my mother called. "Madison, you are coming tomorrow, aren't you? It's important to Stella." "I can't make it," I said. "I have plans." "Plans? What plans could you possibly have that are more important than your sister's promotion party?" "Personal plans." "Madison, this is ridiculous. You're being selfish. The family expects you to be there. Then the family is going to be disappointed." I hung up before she could guilt-trip me further. The next day, while Stella's party was in full swing, I was signing closing documents on my beach house. Carol handed me the keys with a warm smile. "Congratulations, Madison. I hope this place brings you everything you're looking for." I drove straight to the beach house with a bottle of wine and a plastic cup. I'd brought a few things with me: a beach chair, a blanket, some basic groceries. As the sun started to set, I took out my phone and snapped a photo. Me sitting in the chair with the beach house visible behind me, raising the cup of wine toward the camera. The ocean was a gray-blue smudge in the background. I posted it to social media with a single caption: "Birthday present to myself. Family not invited." Then I turned off my phone and watched the sunset alone. I didn't turn my phone back on until the next morning. When I did, it practically exploded with notifications. 73 missed calls. Over 100 text messages. My social media post had been shared by mutual friends, commented on by old acquaintances, and apparently had made its way to every member of my extended family. The first text from my mother had arrived 10 minutes after I posted the photo. "What is this about?" Then 2 minutes later, "Madison, call me immediately." Followed by, "Is this a joke? Where did you get the money for a house?" My father had texted, "Your mother is very upset. We need to talk about this." Stella's messages were more direct. "Are you seriously trying to make drama on my month? I can't believe how selfish you are." There were messages from aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone suddenly very interested in what I was doing and where I'd gotten the money and why I hadn't told anyone. The attention I'd never received for anything positive in my life was now being lavished on me for making one quiet, defiant statement. I made coffee in the beach house kitchen and sat at the small table reading through the messages. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer intensity of vindication I felt. They noticed. Finally, they noticed. My mother called at 8 in the morning. I let it ring. She called again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. "Where have you been?" she demanded before I could say hello. "I've been calling you all night." I was sleeping. "It's my birthday. I took the day off." "Your birthday was yesterday. And that's not the point." "What is this about a beach house? Did you actually buy a house without telling us?" "Yes." Silence on the other end. "Then, how? Where did you get that kind of money?" "I saved it. Over 5 years." "5 years? You've been hiding money from us for 5 years?" I almost laughed at that. "Hiding it? It's my money, Mom. I didn't realize I needed to report my savings to you. Don't get smart with me. We're your family. You should have told us. We could have helped you find something better, closer to home. I like where it is, and I didn't want help." This is ridiculous. Her voice was rising now. You bought a house out of spite to make some kind of statement. I bought a house because I wanted one. The statement was just a bonus. That caption. Family not invited. Do you know how that makes us look? How does it make you look? Like we're terrible parents. Like we don't care about you. I paused, letting that hang in the air. And whose fault is that? Excuse me? You forgot my birthday, Mom. Again. For the 5th year in a row. I told you about my birthday plans. I texted you. I reminded you. And you blew me off because you were too busy planning another party for Stella. We did not forget. We've been busy. And your birthday fell in the middle of all this party planning. We were going to take you to dinner this weekend. Were you? Or is that something you just decided right now? She sputtered. That is incredibly unfair. We love you just as much as we love Stella. Then why don't you show it the same way? We do. You're being oversensitive. Just because we don't throw you elaborate parties doesn't mean we don't care. When was the last time you threw me any party? Silence. When was the last time you remembered my birthday without me having to remind you? When was the last time you asked about my life, my job, my interests, without immediately turning the conversation back to Stella? You're exaggerating. Am I? Name one accomplishment of mine from the past 5 years. Just one. More silence. You can't, can you? But I bet you can name every single thing Stella's done. Every promotion, every boyfriend, every milestone, because you actually pay attention to her life. Madison, that's not fair. What's not fair is spending 5 years watching my family forget I exist. What's not fair is contributing $2,000 to Stella's car and never getting so much as a thank you. What's not fair is having my birthday treated like an inconvenience while Stella gets 100-person parties for graduating college. You helped pay for Stella's car? Yes, because Dad asked me to. Because family helps family. Except apparently that only goes one direction. Your father didn't tell me you'd contributed. Of course he didn't. Because none of you ever think about me unless you need something. The conversation went in circles for another 20 minutes. My mother alternating between defensive anger and guilt-tripping. I stayed calm, stating facts, refusing to back down. Finally, she said what I'd been waiting for her to say. Fine, if that's how you feel, maybe you're better off away from us. Maybe I am. I hung up. For the next 2 weeks, my phone was a constant stream of messages and calls. My father demanding I apologize to my mother for being disrespectful. Stella calling me selfish and dramatic. Various family members reaching out to tell me I was overreacting, that I needed to come back and make things right. But there were also unexpected messages. A distant cousin named Tyler, who I'd barely spoken to in years, sent me a private message. I saw your post. Good for you. I've watched how they treat you versus Stella for years and I've always thought it was messed up. You deserve better. An old family friend reached out to tell me her own story of being the forgotten child in her family and how setting boundaries had changed her life. And then there was a message from a woman I'd never met named Maya. Her profile showed a woman around my age smiling in front of a mountain backdrop. Hi, Madison. I hope this message doesn't seem weird, but I saw your post about the beach house and your caption. I just wanted to say that I completely understand what you're going through. I went through something similar with my own family 3 years ago. They forgot my 30th birthday while throwing an elaborate party for my younger brother. And when I called them out on it, they made me feel like I was the problem for being too sensitive. It took me a long time to realize that I wasn't overreacting. I was just finally acknowledging a pattern that had been there my whole life. Setting boundaries with family is one of the hardest things to do, but also one of the most important. I don't know if you need to hear this, but you're not crazy. You're not selfish. And you're not wrong for choosing yourself. That beach house looks beautiful, by the way. I hope it brings you peace. I read that message 3 times, feeling tears prick my eyes. A complete stranger understood what my own family refused to acknowledge. I sent her a reply thanking her, and we ended up messaging back and forth for over an hour. She told me about her journey of setting boundaries. The family members who'd eventually come around and the ones who never did. She told me it was okay to grieve the family I'd wanted while still protecting myself from the family I had. That conversation did more for me than any family meeting could have. Friday evening, my phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Madison, it's Uncle Marcus. Uncle Marcus, my mother's younger brother. I hadn't heard from him in over a year. Hi, Uncle Marcus. Look, I'm calling because your mom asked me to try talking some sense into you. She's really upset about this whole situation. I'm sure she is. But I'm not calling to do that. I'm calling to tell you I'm not going to that family meeting she's planning. I sat up straighter. You're not? No, because I've been watching this play out, and honestly I think your mom is out of line. Really? Really. Look, I love my sister, but she's always had this way of rewriting history to make herself the victim. And I've seen how she treats you versus how she treats Stella. I've seen it for years and never said anything. And I'm sorry for that. Why didn't you say anything? Because it was easier not to. Because calling out family dynamics is messy and uncomfortable. But your post made me realize that my silence was part of the problem. So I'm telling you now, you're not wrong. You're not being dramatic. And you deserve better than what you've been getting. I couldn't speak for a moment. Finally, I managed. Thank you. You have no idea how much that means. I do have some advice, though. Don't expect the rest of the family to see it that way. At least not right away. Your mom has already shaped the narrative, and most people are going to believe her version. They're going to think you're the problem. I know. But eventually, some of them will figure it out. It might take months or even years, but people who really care will come around. Until then, you just keep doing what you're doing. Take care of yourself first. After we hung up, I walked down to the beach. It was almost dark, the sky turning deep purple. The sand was cool under my bare feet, and the waves crashed rhythmically against the shore. I thought about everything that had happened in the past week and a half. The hurt, the anger, the confrontations, the unexpected support from strangers and distant family members. My mother had scheduled a family meeting for Saturday afternoon, a gathering at my parents' house where everyone could discuss Madison's situation and figure out how to bring me back into the fold. I had no intention of attending. Saturday afternoon came, and I was at the farmers market in Westport, buying fresh vegetables and chatting with local vendors. My phone rang repeatedly, but I didn't answer. I was building a new life here, and I refused to let their drama pull me back into old patterns. That evening, I received a long, rambling voicemail from my mother describing the family meeting, how everyone was worried about me, how they all agreed I was going through some kind of crisis, how they wanted to help me see reason. The voicemail ended with a threat disguised as concern. "We're coming to see you next week, Madison. Whether you like it or not, we're your family, and we have a right to check on you." I forwarded that voicemail to my Aunt Caroline, my father's sister, who had also reached out with support. "Do I need a lawyer?" Her response came quickly. "Possibly. Let me make some calls." Within 2 days, Aunt Caroline had connected me with a lawyer friend who sent my parents a formal cease and desist letter. The letter warned them that showing up at my property uninvited would constitute harassment and could result in legal consequences. My mother was furious. She left multiple voicemails about how I'd gotten lawyers involved and was treating my own family like criminals. I saved every voicemail, every text, every email, building a documentation trail in case things escalated further. But something interesting started happening. Cracks began appearing in the united front my family had presented. My grandmother left a comment on one of my beach photos. "You look happy, dear. I'm glad you found peace, even if it's away from us. I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to leave to find it." I stared at that comment for 10 minutes, reading it over and over. It wasn't a full apology, and it didn't erase years of favoritism and neglect, but it was an acknowledgement. I sent her a private message. "Thank you, Grandma. That means more than you know." She responded. "Your mother won't like that I wrote that, but I'm too old to keep pretending I don't see what's been happening. You deserved better from all of us." Over the next few weeks, more cracks appeared. Uncle Marcus posted a supportive comment on one of my photos. Tyler started openly defending me when family members made snide comments in group texts. Even some of Stella's friends reached out privately, admitting they'd been following my journey and were inspired by my courage to set boundaries. My mother, seeing her narrative crumble, made one final desperate attempt. She posted a long Facebook status about the pain of having an estranged child, painting herself as a heartbroken mother who'd done everything right but still lost her daughter. She talked about unconditional love, about family bonds that couldn't be broken, about how she'd always be there when I finally came to my senses. The responses were mixed. Some people supported her, but others, who'd been quietly watching everything unfold, started asking pointed questions in the comments. Why did Madison feel the need to leave? What happened at the birthday that Madison mentioned? Have you tried actually listening to her concerns? My mother deleted the post within 24 hours. 3 months after I bought the beach house, Stella called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked when I picked up. "Wow, hello to you too. I'm not in the mood for games, Stella. What do you want?" "I'm calling because Mom asked me to try talking to you. She's really hurt that you're refusing to come home for Christmas." "I'm not refusing to come home. I am home. You know what I mean. To our parents' house for the family gathering. I wasn't actually invited. Mom just said there would be a place set. That's not an invitation. That's a passive-aggressive way of making me look bad when I don't show up. God, you always have to make everything so complicated. Can't you just come to Christmas dinner and be normal for once?" "Define normal. You know, act like part of the family." Stop being so dramatic about everything. Stella, in the 3 months since I left, have you once asked me how I'm doing? Have you once acknowledged that maybe the way I was treated contributed to my decision? Oh, here we go again with the victim thing. You're not the only person in this family who exists, Madison. You're right, I'm not. But I'm the only person who's been consistently treated like I don't matter. That is such nonsense. You matter. You've always mattered. You're just mad that mom and dad don't worship the ground you walk on like you think they should. I never wanted worship. I wanted basic acknowledgement. But you wouldn't understand that because you've never gone without it. Whatever. I'm not going to beg you to come to Christmas. But I want you to know that you're ruining it for everyone. Mom cries every time someone asks if you're coming. Dad barely speaks at dinner anymore. Grandma and Grandpa keep asking what they did wrong. You're tearing this family apart. And for what? Because we forgot a few birthdays? Not a few birthdays. 5 consecutive birthdays. 5 years of treating my existence like an afterthought while throwing you elaborate parties for breathing. That's not how it was. Then how was it, Stella? Tell me. When was the last time they threw me a party? When was the last time they celebrated any achievement of mine the way they celebrate yours? Silence on the line. You can't answer that, can you? Because they don't. They never have. And you've been perfectly happy to soak up all that attention without ever once questioning why I don't get the same. You're jealous. I'm not jealous of you, Stella. I'm sad that my family treats me like I don't matter. I'm done explaining this to people who refuse to understand. The conversation ended badly. But I wasn't surprised. Stella had never been capable of seeing beyond her own experience. December came and went. I spent Christmas at the beach house with Aunt Caroline and her family, who drove out to visit me. We had a simple dinner, exchanged small gifts, and took a long walk on the beach. It was the best Christmas I'd had in years. My phone buzzed with the obligatory family Christmas photo. Everyone gathered around the tree at my parents' house. My mother's smile looked strained. My father's arm was around Stella, who looked uncomfortable. There was no message with the photo, just the image, sent to remind me what I was missing. Except I wasn't missing anything. I was exactly where I wanted to be. In March, something shifted. I posted a photo of myself at a local art show, smiling next to a painting I'd bought from a local artist. The caption was simple: supporting local artists and feeling grateful for this community that's welcomed me. The comments were mostly positive, but one stood out. From my grandmother. You look happy, dear. I'm glad you found peace, even if it's away from us. I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to leave to find it. It wasn't a full apology. It didn't erase years of favoritism and neglect. But it was an acknowledgement. A crack in the united front my family had presented. Over the next few months, that crack widened. More family members began reaching out individually, some to apologize, others just to maintain a connection separate from my parents' narrative. Tyler and I became genuinely close friends. Aunt Caroline visited regularly. Uncle Marcus brought his family for weekend beach trips. The family I'd been born into had fractured, but in the breaking, I'd found the people who actually cared about me as a person rather than as a role to fill. In July, Tyler got married at a vineyard an hour from Spokane. I was invited, not by my parents, but by Tyler directly. He made it clear that my attendance was important to him, regardless of family politics. I almost didn't go. The thought of facing my entire family in one place made my stomach churn. But Tyler had stood by me when others hadn't, so I went. The wedding was beautiful. I arrived early and stayed in the background during the ceremony. At the reception, I sat at a table with Aunt Caroline and some distant cousins I'd reconnected with over the past year. My parents were at the head table. They saw me, but neither approached. Stella was there with her new boyfriend, shooting me occasional glares from across the room. But something unexpected happened. As the evening wore on, various family members came up to me, not to lecture me or try to reconcile me with my parents, but just to talk, to ask how I was doing, to tell me the beach house looked beautiful in my photos, to share their own stories of family friction and boundary setting. My grandfather pulled me aside at one point. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly, "for standing up for yourself. I wish I'd been braver when I was your age." Near the end of the reception, my father approached. My mother stayed at the table, watching us with narrowed eyes. "Madison," he said awkwardly, "can we talk?" We walked outside to the vineyard's garden, away from the noise of the reception. "You look good," he said finally. "Thanks." "Your mother? She's not ready to admit she was wrong. Maybe she never will be, but I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how we treated you versus how we treated Stella. And I think you were right." I waited, not making it easy for him. "I can't give you back those years. I can't undo the birthdays we missed or the achievements we overlooked. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what we did, and I'm sorry." "Do you?" Or are you just sorry that I left? He flinched. Both, maybe. Is that honest enough? It's a start. Can we try to have some kind of relationship? Even if it's different from before? Maybe. But it has to be on my terms. No guilt trips about missing family events. No pressure to reconcile with mom if she's not willing to do the work. No expecting me to go back to being invisible. I understand. And Dad, if you ever forget my birthday again, we're done permanently. He nodded, his eyes wet. I'll put it in my calendar. With reminders. Multiple reminders. We hugged briefly and awkwardly. Then I left the wedding. As I drove back to Westport, windows down and music playing, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not hope that my whole family would suddenly change, but hope that maybe I could have selective relationships with the ones who were willing to put in the effort. 6 months later, I was sitting on my porch watching the winter waves when my phone rang. It was my father calling to wish me happy birthday a day early. Just in case, he said. He forgot on the actual day, though he promised he wouldn't. We talked for 20 minutes about my life, my work, the book I was reading. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. My mother never apologized. She maintained her version of events, telling people I'd overreacted and abandoned the family over nothing. But her voice got quieter over time as more people stopped believing her narrative. Stella and I existed in a state of mutual distance. Not hostile, but not close. We exchanged occasional polite messages, but neither of us pushed for more. My grandmother called every few weeks, and we developed a relationship that felt honest in a way it never had before. Tyler and I stayed close. Aunt Caroline became one of my best friends. Uncle Marcus visited Westport twice, both times bringing his wife and kids for weekend beach trips. The family I'd been born into had fractured, but in the breaking, I'd found the people who actually cared about me as a person rather than as a role to fill. And I'd built a chosen family in Westport, friends who knew my worth without me having to prove it, who celebrated my successes without comparing them to anyone else's, who remembered my birthday without reminders. As for the beach house that had started everything, it remained my sanctuary. My proof that choosing myself hadn't been selfish, it had been survival. Every morning I woke up to the sound of waves, and every morning I was grateful for the courage it had taken to post that one simple photo with that one simple caption. Birthday present to myself. Family not invited. Looking back now, I realize it had never really been about revenge at all. It had been about reclaiming my voice, my worth, and my right to be seen. The beach house wasn't a weapon, it was a mirror, forcing my family to see exactly what they'd been doing for years. Some of them finally looked. Some of them never would, and I'd learned to be okay with both. My family's dysfunction had cost them a daughter, but their rejection had given me something far more valuable. Myself. I'm Madison. I'm 30 years old now. I live in a beach house I bought with my own money. I have relationships with the family members who actually care about me, and I have boundaries that I will never apologize for setting. Every year on my birthday, I take a photo on my porch with the ocean behind me. I post it with a simple caption. Another year older. Another year grateful. My father always comments within an hour. My grandmother sends a card that arrives exactly on time. Aunt Caroline brings cake. Tyler calls to sing an off-key happy birthday. Stella never acknowledges it. My mother never acknowledges it. And that's okay. Because I've learned that family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shows up, who remembers, who cares enough to try. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so good that their absence doesn't diminish it. And that's exactly what I did.